Welcome to the Ending Poverty and Combating the Prison Industrial Complex Through Tech Forum at the Black Blockchain Summit. Today we have 4 guests to address this topic. So let me allow my guests to take about a minute to introduce themselves. We're going to start first with Faza, then go to Rhonda, followed by Jacqueline, and then Justin.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Fasa. I'm a digital ecologist. The work that I'm focused on primarily is around the attention economy. The reason why that exists is because the economy that we're currently in is running out of opportunities, economic opportunities, because of automation. We're in the 5th phase of the Industrial Revolution. I've been speaking on these panels for the last several years about the same thing. It's only accelerating with ChatGPT and AI. So we need to be a part of building the future economies where there's going to be future job opportunities, future capacity building programs, future innovation, and future curriculum. Because then as it relates to poverty and industrial complex, our people can be well positioned for future economies that are future proof, where the jobs aren't going to be just disappearing and where the opportunities aren't going to be just disappearing, but we can actually be participating in an economy that we know is going to be here from 2023 through 2030 through 2050. And we're not giving ourselves that opportunity if we don't build our own digital infrastructure. And that's the work that I'm primarily focused on, is making sure that Black people have an economy, that we actually own the IP, the development, and the core investment in it, so that we're not hemorrhaging resources every time that we think that we're buying Black, but we're really swiping white. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rhonda Eldridge. I came into this industry, the blockchain industry, at about 2014-15, seeing a great opportunity for persons in, I would say, marginalized communities, not necessarily Black communities, but underserved communities. And when you look at the statistics, you can say the majority would be BIPOC, BPOC, I guess you could call it a number of different names. But I wanted to see more people who looked like me in the industry, because I myself, I went to university where I was the only person in my entire year who was a Black female. And first I thought I was a minority because I was Black. And then I realized I was a double minority because I was a Black female. But also going into the alternative investment world, I was also the only person of color and woman in the room. And so I wanted to see that be a very different future with the opportunities that we are seeing in fast emerging technologies. And growing up, I came from very humble beginnings. I'm not ashamed of my beginnings. I knew what the challenges were for me. And I knew, to this day, I see the same challenges for people of color, regardless of where we are in the world. It's not a country, it's everywhere in the world. We see these marginalized communities, and we see this top-down approach to new tech. I wanted to see it go from the bottom up. And I'm really a strong believer in sharing the knowledge. So I will share my knowledge, I'll share my network, I share everything, which some people think may not be the right way to do things, but I think it is. Also for inclusion and access. So I go into, I would go into an orphanage and teach an orphan about blockchain. And I've seen persons in orphanages, in one case, when we started to do our annual events, we went into an orphanage. We got 4 orphans and we taught them about blockchain. And who would have thought that they would emerge as the winners? Because they came from a place where they knew what the problems were, and only they know how to solve the problems. What we don't have sometimes, we don't have the capacity, the resources, the access. People pouring into us. And I am fortunate to have people who poured into me as a girl who grew up in a 4-room wooden house, no water, no light, outdoor toilet. Again, I'm not ashamed of those things. And rising to, to be a regional MD for a large European bank. That could be any kid once we give them the resources. So I'm very much about that empowerment. And I say marginalized communities because the statistics would speak for the background of those communities. And they are traditionally Black or people of color and women. And so we need to shift that. We shift that by sharing the knowledge. I have been given that knowledge, and I may not be all knowing, but I do know a lot of what I do know, and I want to share those things. So I do that through Harness All Possibilities. I started off with persons who were unemployed during the financial crisis. And I've done it over the last, I think, 6 years through blockchain business school. So taking my business school knowledge, my knowledge of investments, working in alternative investments, and then going into fintech and anything that's tech, and sharing that knowledge from a business standpoint. So we give people the tools, the knowledge to build a business. Anyone could do that. So that's me, Rhonda Eldridge. Happy to be here.
Thank you
Hi,
very much.
I'm
Mr. Taylor Adams.
great. Hi, I'm Jacqueline Taylor Adams, and I'm a business and marketing strategist. And basically, I've just always been in and around the tech space. And my vehicle has always been to share it more with the everyday people. Sometimes we get in our own area. So techies hang around with techies, this group with this group, but it's not filtering down to the everyday person. And we found that it's a real issue with parents supporting youth because the parents don't understand. Excuse me. I will just go on. You can just go on. Okay, I'm in the office. So that's just my main role. I just market the technology to other people.
Thank you.
All right. My name is Justin Redrick. Online, I go by Bitcoin Vegan on Twitter, and I am the executive director and co-founder of the Bitcoin Transformation Community. And we have a lot of projects we're focusing on, but our primary project now is called the From Bars to Bitcoin Prison Reentry Tour. I'm the author of a book called From Bars to Bitcoin. There's also a documentary created about my story. I've been in the Bitcoin space since 2016, and I found out about Bitcoin upon release from prison and saw it as a vehicle of investing, opportunity, hope. And with our project or our tour, we are looking to go inside prisons and provide Bitcoin education, provide hope through financial literacy to combat the recidivism in America. And on top of that, we have a group of partners who are in the mining sector of the Bitcoin space. Oh man, sorry about that. In the mining sector of the Bitcoin space, who we've approached for employment opportunities for people coming out of prison upon release. And some of our main goals is to provide family-sustaining wages, provide safer communities, and also just provide hope, whether someone takes the Bitcoin path or not, but to know that there's numerous opportunities, as everyone on this panel has stated, for our community and different levels of our community where they have education, they don't have education, they've been incarcerated, they've never been incarcerated. So I feel we're all on the same page, but that's where we are. You can check out our website at btctc.org. And we also have a project on the Geyser Fund. You can just go to geyser.fund and type in From Bars to Bitcoin Tour.
Thank you very much. Thank each of you for your introduction. And I want to jump right into this first question. And we're going to stay in the same order as before, starting with Faza, Rhonda, Jacqueline, and then finish off with Justin. How can technology play a transformative role in addressing poverty and dismantling the prison industrial complex?
You're on mute.
Well,
Faza, yeah.
That's a great question. So the main question, I personally believe that we have to be participating in the real infrastructure that's taking place. I think the place that we've been placed at is thinking like entrepreneurs. And the truth is that we need to be thinking as industrialists if we actually want to be able to create the jobs and practice the nepotism and ensure that there's high-paying jobs for brothers and sisters that come out of being incarcerated due to the prison industrial complex. But we're not building, we have to build an infrastructure. And the reason why we have to have an infrastructure to do this, because we have to be able to support all of these companies that are great ideas. If we're building applications, which you need applications, that's still a low-tech environment. That's not a protocol. That's not an OS. That's not the type. We actually have to have our own ICT infrastructure. From an ICT infrastructure standpoint, and I'll finish really quickly here, ICT infrastructure means the information and communications technology infrastructure, systems, software, hardware, firmware, networks, and the company websites that are used in the business. We need to be in that space creating opportunities for our people because that's the future. They have us behind because our IP has been infiltrated and marginalized and exploited over the last several years. And we're now in a position where, like, this is it. All we have left is our data. And if we don't come up with ways and we don't start building in ways that allow for us to convert the contextual data that we have into meaningful use applications in the real world that we can monetize, then it's not going to happen for us. And we would be letting our ancestors down, in my opinion.
Very
Thank
nice.
you.
I like to share from the standpoint that we you may even hear a lot around me. I had to come outside. If we don't also make this accessible to the everyday person, to the youngest child, you know, and we can't depend, as Foster said, on other people's systems. We have to educate the everyday person, have to educate your children, let them build our own school, our own access. And otherwise, you're going to be like in the midst of where I am right now. And this is just what's going on. And I'm in a historic place that actually, I'm on a block that has sanctuary, but all around where there's sanctuary, there's chaos. And so it's so important because we can have these conversations, but if the young person doesn't know it, and that's why I'm always into teaching the youth, and they don't have to be a Harvard educated or any, they, you know, they're dynamic, they have the knowledge, but we just have to give them strategy, teach them how to think, teach them how to problem solve, along with giving them access and the information. It can't just be, even in our own, it can't just be top up. It has to be, as Rhonda stated, the people who actually know the problem. And a lot of times we're not involving youth in these conversations, and they're the ones to take over. And they have so much to contribute. That's it for me.
Yeah, I would add 2 examples of why it needs to be done and why it needs to be done from those persons in the community. So we had a situation during COVID. Kids were like completely, their families, everyone was cut off from the digital economy. It was a big shift. So the first thing we did, we shifted from our annual program, which was in person, and we literally decided we're going to get devices to students. I didn't care what kind of device it was, they were going to get devices. We sent those devices, we shared our idea in 5 countries, and we got the devices. Who didn't have money? We got money to them to purchase computers, because we figured that without computers, we are going to widen the gap. So we did that. We got about 300 computers distributed to at-risk communities or communities that were sort of cut off. I don't know how one woman, she found 80 people, she gave me 80 names. I'm like, I can't give you 80 computers, but I will take one address and one family will get a computer. So that was one example that we did, and we did that 2020 to 2021. We then took the program of blockchain education on those computers. We got access to a program, and we did a developer program. So we gave one young man, we sent by boat, and literally it went by plane, car, boat to an island. He needed hardware. So we gave him a computer so he could learn how to code. He and another young man, we didn't know the age of the younger one until he had finished the program. And I said something to him, I said, shouldn't you be in school? He said, homeschooled. I'm like, where are you? He was on an island, you know, one of the islands in the Bahamas. He was 12. He completed the program. So I knew nothing about these kids, but there were 2 things that we gave them. We gave them the power of the mind, and we gave them knowledge. Those are the 2 tools that we need to ingrain in everyone they could have. And those young men not only went on and completed the developer certification program by consensus, they became blockchain developers, 12 and 16. But we then said, now you need to go into the community, find underserved persons, and you teach them. And the 12-year-old, his mom said he has a question. I'm like, what's your question? Mrs. Eldridge, what is underserved? And we're like, you, someone like you, how we found you, you go and find. And what happened, we, come forward now, both fathers, the entire family came to our 2023 event. And the fathers and the parents learned with their students, because they're like, we're carpenters, we are artisans, we don't know this digital world, but our kids are living in it. And we went to those kids, and I think, in my opinion, we can lift up many communities by following such programs bottom up as opposed to top down. 2 examples. Thank you.
All right. Those were great answers. And I believe there has to be a combined use of like shared resources and responsibility, because everyone has a part to play. And it's kind of like how in sports for the New England Patriots, they say, do your job or do your part. And I believe like with technologies like these, the opportunity is the fact that it's a decentralized technology, meaning that it's almost like a race of who can be there first. And if you're there first, you have the knowledge, you could then start having more power. But that's just a piece of the equation, like Fosfa said, about creating the infrastructure so you can obtain it. And how Ms. Adams shared, like you got to start with children, but also have parents involved as well. Otherwise, it's a holistic approach, because you'll end up having, just one without the other. You have a child learning about technology and the parents writing them off, or vice versa, a parent knowing and a child like, well, I just want to go outside and do whatever. Example I have is in 2022, I was invited with the Black Bitcoin Billionaires as a teacher at the Bitcoin Academy created by Jay-Z and Jack Dorsey. And we would educate, and and education is very real. It's very real. But I think I noticed like a missing piece, because I would just ask people, like, for instance, about Bitcoin. They're like, oh, well, it's cool, I'd like to know about it, but I still don't know how I'm going to pay my bills day to day. I still know how I'm going to have my life day to day. So there has to be a layer of like, not, sometimes people say meeting them where they are, and I think what they mean is meeting them where they're located. But like meeting someone really where they are is like, okay, how can we get you employment to participate in the very basics of just purchasing of Bitcoin or purchasing some type of, crypto, if that's your thing, so they can get going and have motivation to keep doing it. Because a lot of times we teach these things and people get demotivated the moment they leave, because there's no added hope to what they're learning. So, and combined with what we've all been saying, I think it being an early space, it being a space where we can create opportunities, and everybody's not an entrepreneur, like everybody doesn't need to be one, but creating opportunities so people can, go home at night and take care of their family, to then start, wanting to grow and take on more challenging things. I think that's where a combined effort of everybody's intentions can start helping move us along the path of growth.
That's great. And I've heard several of you use the words, a variation of the words, we have to, we need to. And oftentimes when we talk about how we can help in our communities, we always talk about here's what we need to do, here's what we have to do. Miss Eldridge, I know you gave a good example. Mr. Reggie gave an example as well. But what is in place now that we can utilize or we can rally around to really help bridge that gap and contribute to breaking the cycle of poverty and the issues with the prison industrial complex? What already is in place that we can rally around and utilize?
Jacqueline, I feel, I'm a marketer, but I really feel we need to just develop a real marketing campaign. That I wind up being I'm head of the Urban Tech Fair, The founder of it actually had passed on with stage 4 cancer, and I was the president. So I inherited it. But it really acts as a marketing tool. We have to teach concepts. We learn through repetition. We need to get from the music, entertainment, every aspect of layer. We have to push messages that help innovation through creativity, innovation, access, coming together, being a community. We can't keep allowing, like, we're engulfed in propaganda.
Yeah.
And so that always gets in the way. So in a sense, we need to create our own propaganda. And it needs to be targeted and focused. And what's the messaging? How do we want to empower? And literally come together with a campaign. At this point, it's like literally taking it to the streets.
I agree. I think what I've done over the last 5 years is we've plugged in. No need to build if it's already there, and use the network effect. So that's what I've done. So I plug into existing programs, make it a summer-long time of learning. I call it a roadmap. So we plug into coding camps, we plug into other camps, and we all, at the end of the year, everybody gets involved in the Blockchain Business School. We invite students from these different programs. That's one thing, right? To use what's already there. And what I found also very helpful is how do you reach everyone, right? Everyone has had a teacher. So we actually had a meeting with the teachers and said, oh, we're going to just have these kids come on and talk. And when the teachers saw the kids as young as 12, 13, talking about, what they'd learned in blockchain. And, we also had a young lady in Cayman Islands. She was the first Caymanian to become a DevCon scholar with the Ethereum Foundation. They're like, well, what are you teaching these kids? I'm like, we're just learning together. And what happened this year is we brought the teachers. So we had the teachers and the students sort of cascading this knowledge within the community. And without effort, it's very inexpensive. And we got a hashtag now, BBS 2023. And so you could start to find on social media things that are trending with respect to what we're doing. And we always live stream our events. Anyone can access it, and we find that's helpful.
Okay, that is great. And we only have about 2 minutes left. So I do want to ask each of you, because we want to have actionable steps, I want to ask each of you just to give a 30-second action item for people watching this. What is something they can actually really go do now to be part of this movement, to be part of helping turn things around?
Okay. For me, understanding these two things I'm about to show, this is what's happening to us. This is what's been going on. These are the phases of the Industrial Revolution. We are now in this phase right here. You can see there's not a lot of downhill left after that. And we need to position ourselves and learn this narrative, which is where we are participating in the innovation that's coming instead of the innovation that's already happening. We're here because this is where we know that money is going to be. But the truth is, this is where money is going to be. This is where we've seen people make money. And then the last piece right here, and I'll share this last one, is 2 seconds. This is probably one of the most important things to our people. I created both these documents. This one here at the very center is our culture. What Justin said, we can't afford to take care of ourselves, but we know that we bring value into this world through our culture. So we want that to translate into our communities so that we can then exchange value through our own economy, but we don't have that. We have a gap that was pointed out. I think Jacqueline said, economies, we don't have an economy. Exchanges, we don't have exchanges. Industries, we don't have exchanges, and we don't have marketplaces really. We have entrepreneurship. We need to fill this gap right here and be talking about this every day, because this is how you create 20, 30-year plans. Products and companies, that's something that's very quick, dynamic, and 3 to 5 year business plans and stuff. We need to be thinking long-term.
For me, I think there are two things. One is self-awareness, emotional intelligence, become aware. I think people don't know what they don't know. And so when they become aware, that's very helpful. And I would, to your point, I think also this concept of you have to not look at where we are, but where we want to be. And then you start thinking backwards, work backwards, right? Sort of like, you know, okay, this is the goal, but how do you get there? We tend to go forward, but what we need to do is say, this is the goal. We're going to get there, and work backwards, looking at all the challenges, you know, to do it. That's my view.
I have action item. I don't want to go over too much of time, but I placed a link in the chat. Our Geyser Fund, the From Bars to Bitcoin Prison Reentry Tour. It's a great synopsis of what we're looking to do to actively, you know, start this off now. We have our first prison set up September 9th in Jessup, Maryland, at the Howard County Detention Center. So when Colin asks, like, what is the thing that people can join and get a part or get behind of now, you could check that link out and see if you like it, see if it's something you want to support, or reach out to me on email, justin@btctc.org. And we have our website up as well. Just go to btctc.org and you'll see our initiatives and our call to actions and everything on our website.
One thing I'd like to say is just
Can't.
go ahead and do it. Don't overthink it. Just do it.
Yeah, one of the things I just want to say, we want to give people action items. So really now, first, I would say plug into I Love Black People. This is the commonality that we all have right now. If you're watching this, you would be at I Love Black People. And from there, we need to form, you know, different areas based on what is your gift, what is your talent, how can you contribute that to the overall. So maybe with the tour, and if you do entertainment and you used to putting on tours and producing, you might need to go over and help Justin. It's just different areas that you can use your gifts and talents, but it's coming together, understanding we're working together to solve the problems. There are different layers, and then being strategic. So strategically, the first thing I would say, make sure you connect that I Love Black People. Write down every interest of area. You may not remember everything, write it down so that you can get back, say, oh, I heard this, I need to get back. And then we will move further from this point.
Right. Thank you very much. And that's about all the time we have for the Ending Poverty and Combating the Prison Industrial Complex through Tech session. I'm Colin Thompson. It has been my absolute pleasure to moderate this session. I want to thank each of my guests for your time, and I hope to see you all again in the I Love Black People Forum. Thank you.
Bye. Take care.